This is the Whole Care Network, helping you tell your story one podcast at a time. Content presented in the following podcast is for information purposes only. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the host and guest and may not represent the views and opinions of the Whole Care Network. Always consult with your physician for any medical advice, and always consult with your attorney for any legal advice. And thank you for listening to the Whole Care Network.
Hello, everybody. I'm Isabel Melgarejo, your host, and this is Time to Care the Caregivers podcast. And today I am thrilled to introduce you to Garry Evans. He is the founder of Caregiver Brilliance, and Caregiver Brilliance is all about building a community of caregivers in a positive note. And I have a rant for later about some communities out there for caregivers. Welcome, Garry.
Thank you. Thank you, Isabel. Nice to be here with you.
So happy to have you here today. Tell us about your story, about how you became a caregiver.
It's going back in time. I started in my teenage years, actually. My grandmother had undiagnosed Alzheimer's for many years, which was a major challenge. Through my teens in the 70s, the 80s, just going through that discovery phase and supporting her and my grandfather. I mean, we wouldn't have classified ourselves, my mother and myself, as caregivers, but that's what, in fact, we were doing. And so it just always left a big impression from an early age, the challenges, the complexities that we faced to support them. Another big impression was end of life support for my father and one of my uncles in my 20s. Again, limited resources available, just have to figure it out. You know, when you're responsible for the end of life at that stage, meanwhile, I hadn't even lifted my own off. I hadn't figured out all of my own, and here I am navigating the end of two people close in my family. So I just always left a strong impression early on, and I'm all about solutions. There's got to be an easier way. There has to be. So fast forward to today, I've had pockets of family caregiving throughout the rest of the years, up to and including today. And so that's the background for my why of why I'm involved in this industry.
I think a lot of people think of caregivers either moms with small children or kids with older adults, but people don't think that teenagers or people in their early 20s can also be caregivers. I
Yeah.
became a caregiver at the age of 20. So for me, it is very obvious, I would say,
Mhm.
that you can be a caregiver at a very young age, but not everybody relates to that. What can you tell us about a caregiver brilliance?
Caregiver brilliance, it really comes from our why. So we've assembled a team of people that have a variety of background experiences, end of life doulas, social workers, people that have been PSWs, nurses, et cetera, that just have a range of experience, plus our own personal caregiving experience. And we bring that to the community. We have a methodology. We have care cafes. We have grief cafes. Those are live events where you can go and access information, as well as downloads on multiple areas of support. So you can work through the process yourself, or you can join a group, or you can actually hire a one-on-one care confidant. So that's kind of the range of services that we provide.
Why is it important for you to have these communities?
The majority of caregivers are lone wolves, not necessarily by choice, but by experience. If they've attempted to ask for help, if you just spend a few minutes on the Facebook caregiving boards, it's just so sad and it's so common that their entire family won't step up to help. So it's basically on them, whoever that chosen primary caregiver is. And I think just in a short period of time, they wear down to the fact that, okay, if it's to be, it's up to me, and I just have to do this. And so the point is to help them find an environment where they can start to build themselves up, really get in, because there's a lot of information about self-care, et cetera, but you kind of need to be in a supportive environment. Not a lot of people are necessarily self-generators. You're going to read a book and you're going to take action and follow it all the way through, especially when you have complexity in your life. At least that's my impression and personal experience. When you have an environment, when you have a group of people that are in a similar situation and you're supporting each other to move forward, it's a world of difference. And I've had that experience many times in different education, and so I just know it's proven to work. And I think if anybody, again, all the comments where the rest of the family really doesn't understand the impact on this primary caregiver, great, outsource. Go find a community of people that do and get the support there. Let them fire you up. That's the why on community.
Here is my rant about Facebook groups. They are so toxic. I think we were talking about this the last time we chat, that at least for me, every time that I go into a Facebook group, I see all these people with such a negative energy and not necessarily finding solutions, just they're consuming a lot of negativity from everybody.
Yeah, that's a hard message to take in. I probably wouldn't frame it the same way, but I understand exactly where you're coming from. There is an essence of that. This is coming from at least 9 years of perusing these groups to see the growth, the changes, looking at the landscape of that offering. So there's a couple things going on. One, I know that there's, at very minimum, here's a place I can vent. Just get it out. Here's what went on. You just put it right into the fan and away it goes. And I think that's healthy. It trained us on, okay, well, here's what we like about that and here's what we don't like. So we don't use Facebook. So we have a private community group. So you're not distracted by ads. You're not getting hit with another bunch of twirly things on the side. It's purely focused. It's within a software called Circle. And so it's just a private group. You've got all your downloads available that are in there and different groups that will be ongoing. So again, less privacy risk and definitely less distraction. But to your point, social media in general can lead to what you just described. It can go that way. Reddit or different areas can really go down that path. I think you really need to be able to self-generate and kind of keep fresh and look for alternatives that are healthy for sure. Because recognizing that negativity, I mean, that's not going to be helpful if you're in a stressful lifestyle.
I'm not saying you shouldn't rant. It is better that you say it out loud or you write it. There's a lot of research about it that it's better to put it out there either with words or writing it down, because that
Yes.
allows the brain to see to that problem in a different perspective. But what happens is when there is not expertise on how to handle all of these
Well,
problems, then
that's
it
it.
becomes a hub of problem dumping and not necessarily a constructive way of, okay, these happen, now what? The expertise that you bring is, okay, come put all your dump here, all your crap,
Yes.
and then we can figure out ways in which we can construct from there.
A lot of unsolicited help, well-meaning, but it misguided, or that is a major problem with that general Facebook. Buyer beware. Just be considerate of what you're consuming and what you're participating in. But to your point, definitely. So our thing is to create an empowering environment. So there's no down talk. I mean, we're not coming in to be shiny, happy people all the time. We've got stuff going on as caregivers, of course. But we want to frame it in a positive way. We want to be in search of empowering outcomes. And although your list may be long, just help people prioritize. What's the thing that you want to move the needle on today, that you're ready to make a change? Like, what's that top A plus plus? And in some of those, it just might, how do I communicate with my family what I'm experiencing? That's a big one. Just being heard, like truly listened to. That's the biggest missing piece for the majority.
I have talked about here in the podcast as well as being very conscious about what we're putting in our heads and what are the things that we're consuming in terms of social media, whatever it is, especially, well, I think it should be a good practice for everybody, especially for a caregiver when there is so much going on our lives. We want to make it as easy as possible and to keep our brains in whatever situation we want to keep them, which
Yeah.
probably and hopefully it is to be positive
Yes.
and enjoying life. What can you tell us about you personally? How do you bring self-care into your life? I know you've been a caregiver for many, many years, and probably you have experienced different things. And over the years, your caregiving experience has evolved. So, what can you tell us over all of these years? What has worked, what hasn't, what you enjoy, you don't?
Having had the fortunate ability to live this many years and go through a lot of cycles and learnings, it just comes down to self practice. So for me, I know it hits a lot of the lists on self care, which is meditation, movement, get out and exercise and walk and stretch and yoga and eat well. I practice all of that. So it's mindfulness. It's not to say that I don't have stress for sure, running a business, caregiving, multiple dynamics, and I'm caregiving long distance. So a big thing is developing the ability to communicate effectively with team. So I have teams in my companies, but also I have teams in caregiving. So because my mother is just over an hour away, I have local family and friends that do support that. So I would say that's probably the biggest self-care relevant to what you're asking is having a well-being team. That's something that we practice in the work that we do with clients is well-being team is just build it up. The thing is, you need to support people to have a win, to really get it, to really line it up. So it takes a little work up front, but once they have it, then it can really run and you've freed up some time. So that I would say is probably one of the healthy things. Even though you're doing it for the end user, the care recipient, that's self-care for you because now you've freed up some additional time, some things you don't have to worry about. They've got a handle on it.
It's always good hiring people to do. And hiring, it could be by paying or just involving them in the process.
And what I've been referencing, it's friends and family, no pay. We all support each other and but she does have external support as well, paid support, yes.
You don't necessarily have to hire someone with a paycheck. You can
That's right.
hire someone by, hey, why don't you visit mom who's alone? Why don't you invite and just be there? And it can be just as a fun conversation, just knowing that someone is there
Yes.
frees up your time for you to do something else.
That would be more classified as companion care, so they aren't necessarily responsible for anything significant other than the very valuable element of spending time. So just as an example, one of my cousins, she supports another family, and so she goes in and does the laundry, changes the sheets, and companion care, and that's once a week for 2-3 hours, and it's just a huge boost. You know that that's locked in, it's standard. It's lovely for the family. It's a break. It's a different conversation for the woman that she's caring for. And it allows the primary caregiver to be out and doing other things. So those are great examples.
And even they can do whatever, but just having more people involved. What do you think about bringing all these people over, especially after COVID, that we're all still trying to figure out how to be out in the world?
For my mom, in my mom's particular case, I don't have a problem with that. So PSWs typically wear masks still. That's one of the things sometimes if there's a cycle of flu. I personally don't have concern. I mean, just use your natural intelligence. If you're coughing, please don't visit. It's just, yeah, I think that's the thing is come back to common sense.
After COVID, we were locked up for a while, and I have noticed, especially in the elder community, it's been really hard for them to go back to their social life. It's kind of isolation.
Observing that. So in my mom's case, she's a very social person. So that was a really hard hit for her, as many. She was very social, and all of a sudden that just got cut off. That was very, very detrimental in her case. What I'm seeing is, there's a fear factor. So I see a lot of senior couples out shopping, and I've heard from other team members where there's kind of a slower and selective intake of visitors. My mom's on the other side of that. She loves company. So I see what you're saying. From, have we rebounded back to whatever normal is or was? I don't think so. But yeah, there's definitely an impact. And in my mom's case in particular, again, being a very social person in the first place, that was just really sad to witness and bear with her. In her case, yeah, there's no fear. People can come in.
And I notice it with my mom. Like, once the advisory of not being around people was over, it took her a very long time, I don't know, to reach out back to people. I've seen that with a lot of people. Like,
Yes.
they had probably they were good at reaching out to people and connecting and going out and having people over or whatever it was. And then a COVID hit. And after that, we're still trying to figure out how to
Yeah.
connect with people.
Just in general, that is something that was a hard hit for young developing children as well. So they lost the ability to develop social skills, and then if you're a little further along in life, yeah, I know it kind of disrupted things. The interesting thing for me is I've been working virtual for 20 years. So that's kind of the boom boom. So I've been a master networker developing relationships internationally this way for 20 years. And, that's how I've run my business. I still socialize. I still go out and live network and different things, but it wasn't really a blip for me. It was just a bit weird going out and shopping and everything that was going on, still walking when there, felt like, but so yeah, it didn't have that impact on me. It's like I was really prepared, kind of thing. And so I did have kind of a unique front row seat to observe what was happening and the impact on others. And I'm really sensitive that it has shaken things up for many pretty permanently. I mean, I see the range. I think some people have been back to normal, like, let's go. Okay. Brush yourself off and away we go. It's kind of like the elastic. If you stretch it out for how long, it just doesn't go back to its original, right? I think some people had the ability to go back to original or ish, and some people it really has changed.
I have definitely noticed that some people are just not connecting as much as they used to. I guess it's a matter of making the effort and helping our loved ones to make the effort to start connecting back with the community,
Yes.
reaching out to people. And I think hobbies are a great way to make connections with like-minded people.
I can just really speak to my mom because she's just a great example. So my mom was in a card group with a group of ladies when she was pregnant with me, which is 61 years ago, and they're still together. I mean, some have passed, but they still have that group running. So
That's awesome.
isn't that awesome? They actually made the Frontline newspaper headline in their local town.
Wow.
One of their visits, because they did a special event with a limo and it took them out, and they literally got front page celebrating X amount of years at the time. This is like 10 years ago, but it was beautiful. And so I love that's when it started. So it's so iconic. You were literally pregnant with me, and they started playing Romoli, and then it became poker group. And she's got a couple. She's got bridge and poker, and she's just a sunshine example of the power of community. they've been together that long, these groups. It's like, wow. So I agree. I've seen it firsthand, that power of network, of friendship.
Is there anything else you want to tell the listeners out there about community, about having this network?
I hadn't really thought of this until now, just being in this conversation, Isabel, is something I've personally practiced for 15 years plus, is having a committed colleague. So for me, what that means is daily, Monday to Friday, I have someone I check in with at 7 a.m. and we rotate. So one week I lead, next week he leads. And basically it's a clearing. It's like, here's what I accomplished yesterday, here's what went on. And again, you've got the ability to vent. There was some tech stuff, there was this, there was that. You're completing the day and then you're creating today. So it's like, okay, well, that was yesterday. And here's what I'm creating today. This is what I'm up to. And you're holding yourself accountable. It's like, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. If it was me sharing, he would acknowledge me. Then I would ask him about his day, clear yesterday, set up today. I'd acknowledge him, and away we go. And that can be 15 minutes. Often we're closer to half an hour. And sometimes we mix it up. So we do phone call for 3 days and we do Zoom for 2 days. So just get that check in. But just having that go-to person, and we've been doing this for consistently, I think we miss about 2 weeks in a year. So 50 weeks a year, Monday to Friday, we're on like clockwork. And we've been doing that for 6 years now, maybe more. And plus I've had other variations of committed colleagues. So I would just say, as I'm thinking about specifically caregivers, and this is something I want to bring to the community to support them to get this education, is source that resource that's got your back, that's like a committed colleague or a confidant, that trusted resource that you have. And it's not necessarily always the best friend, because they can be great people to connect with for different things, but they might not have the listening. They might not be tuned in the way you're looking for this kind of relationship. It can be a unique, different relationship. And it could be just somebody else that's another caregiver. You have that in common and you just support each other just to boost you. You might do it like us 5 days a week. You might do it 2 days, might do it once a week, just to have one bigger clearing and set yourself up for the week, depending on time and availability. But I would really, I would really push for people to create that in their lives. It's really rewarding.
I agree with you. I think if people were to find someone in their caregiving journey that would keep a positive note every day, like, hey, you did great, or maybe just bounce ideas on, today I lost my temper,
Yeah.
and someone to tell you, well, that's okay, I would have lost it as well, because it's someone that knows you very well. If
Yes.
you're talking with that person every
It's
single
a
day,
safe space. That's it.
is someone that knows you very well. And as a caregiver, that is gold, having
Yeah.
someone you can bounce everything back. And hey, I feel guilt because
Yeah.
I am going on vacation. Well, don't feel it. Like, you have the right to get some rest and provide the best care once you're back.
You got it. And you need to do that. You need to recharge your batteries for sure. That is serving your care receiver very well, that you restore and refresh yourself. I'm
Yeah,
glad that came in, because that's a key piece that a lot of caregivers just don't appear to really get. They just play it all out for the care receiver and they're not focused on the self.
I agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree. Tell us, where can people find you?
Caregiverbrilliance.com. That would be the place. And, also I just put in that we've just launched the Caregiver Times, a newsletter that you can access through there as well. That's it. We're looking to create a platform to be the voice, to create support, to generate ideas, and just have a empowering environment for family caregivers. So that's the focus for us.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Garry. thank you, everybody out there listening to us today. Hope you enjoy this conversation. Please go to the show notes, and in the show notes, you'll be able to get the website for Caregiver Brilliance and also check out the webinars that we're offering. Thank you so much.
This is the Whole Care Network. Helping you tell your story one podcast at a time.